Hey, so there's this YouTuber called Karsten Runquist, and he does this series called What I Watched in Blank Month. And I thought that looks fun, and I thought I could do it, so I wanted to try. And I'll leave a link to his video in the description. So basically, this is inspired by his series where all the movies that I watched this month in September, I'm going to be reviewing them and giving my general opinion of them and rating them out of a scale of 1 to 10. These are going to be pretty general overviews, so there won't be any spoilers, so don't worry about that, and enjoy. Starting off with the first movie I watched this month would be 8 Mile, and I'm already a big Eminem fan, so I enjoyed this movie a lot from a fan perspective. My favorite parts were the iconic rap battle scenes and the rugged anti-hero Eminem plays as B-Rabbit. I thought overall he was a pretty good actor for acting not being his general niche. One issue I had with the film was the whole romantic relationship they tried to push with that blonde girl. Like, she's a pretty forgettable character. I can't even really remember her name. And she didn't really serve a purpose, I think. Like, she doesn't do a whole lot for the overall plot. I also really enjoyed Mekhi Phifer and Anthony Mackie's performances. And I thought they did a really good job, and they really brought their characters to life. And overall, it's a pretty laid-back film with a lot of charm, and I would recommend it if you're a rap fan, Eminem fan, hip-hop fan, or if you just want to see a pretty, good movie in general. Followed by that, we have Mid-90s, and Mid-90s is just one of those movies that you have to keep coming back to. I think it's a pretty general opinion that anybody who's seen this movie likes it a lot. It's a very popular movie, and it's very good for well reason. Just when you think you can't go wrong with Jonah Hill as an actor, we see that he's also a dope director. And I think you can really feel his presence all over this film within the cinematography work. It's really great in every aspect, from the drama to the comedy and the fun skating scenes. It's just one of those movies that has a lot of heart and themes and lessons that I think really sticks with you when you walk away from the film. And that's one of the most important things that somebody can do in filmmaking. Every character is amazing, even the characters that we aren't supposed to like always at that specific moment, and I really enjoyed how each character had their own individual issues as opposed to only focusing on the main character. The soundtrack is especially golden, from Wu-Tang to A Tribe Called Quest and even that beautiful song by Omega. Jonah Hill is a known huge rap fan, so you can definitely feel his presence all over this work, as well as the writing, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who hasn't seen it, and I've heard other great praise for it as well. Following Mid-90s, we have another terrific film, obviously, Pulp Fiction, and Jonah Hill is a great director, but now we have Quentin Tarantino, one of the most incredible and talented directors in cinematic history, and obviously Pulp Fiction is one of the most influential movies ever made. Anybody with half a brain could tell you that. But saying this film is a great movie would be an understatement, and everybody knows this is a spectacular film. There's nothing I can say about it that hasn't been said a million times, and yeah, Tarantino's contemporary classic. It made a good watch. I also watched this movie with my dad, and it made him really uncomfortable, which I thought was pretty funny. So don't let that 5.7 rating throw you. Napoleon Dynamite isn't a bad film by any means. It's a classic and enjoyable and lighthearted, and I did enjoy it. I thought there were a few parts where the pacing felt a bit off and awkward, but that's also the entire purpose of the movie, so you can't really count it off by that by any means. And I think overall it just wasn't my vibe entirely. I don't think the movie really resonated with me like it would with some other people, but I would watch it again for sure. If you're into pop culture at all, of course you need to watch this film if you haven't already. So many more references will be made clearer to you, but it just didn't really speak to me like that. Men in Black 3 is easily my favorite out of the Men in Black series, right in front of the first one. One of my favorite actors is Will Smith, so it's not surprising that I like this movie at all. I also really like Josh Brolin and Tommy Lee Jones, so the casting for this film was just top level. You can't go wrong with this cast of great people. This is a super fun and entertaining action movie with a lot of comedy and wisecracks. I really like the Men in Black series in general, and I think this was the perfect ending to the franchise, just the best way to wrap it all up. Everything is just concluded so nicely, and it really grows the relationship that we see flourishing between J and K between the entire series. The soundtrack is great as well, just another great soundtrack, from the Rolling Stones to Jay-Z, and even the Pitbull end credit song that was made specifically for the film is pretty good. I think overall it's a very good movie, and I would recommend it. So Fight Club, this is another movie considered to be a classic, and this was my first time actually watching it. I thought it draws you in very well with the intro and action scenes, and Edward Norton's performance is great. The only performance that could top his is Brad Pitt's playing the insane maniac who is Tyler, and his performance was magnificent. It was insane. There were a couple times where I literally found my mouth open from watching the deranged character that Pitt pulls off so well. I think it does get a little slow in about the second act, and it starts to drag for a second before resuming the main plot. I also didn't really feel the love interest that they were trying to push with Martha, but however, she was a rememberable character, and she was important to the plot, but she just didn't strike me as I think the filmmakers intended, and I didn't feel the connection they were trying to push between her and Edward Norton's character. If you like plot twists, though, you would love this movie. No spoilers, but this movie is one of the greatest plot twists I've ever seen, if not the best, and the final ending shot was beautiful. It is the definition of cinematic. It was perfect. So yeah, this was a pretty good movie. It just got a little slow at times. I didn't really feel the love connection, but otherwise, I thought it was pretty great. So War Games is a movie I've been wanting to see for a long time, ever since I read about it in Ready Player One, and I can say I wasn't disappointed at all. Matthew Broderick's acting here is very easy to enjoy, and he's basically just playing the smart version of Ferris Bueller here, so how could you not love it? I thought the plot was interesting and the mystery aspect of it was fun as well. One thing I think the movie relied on a little too much was plot convenience. It seemed like whenever there was some form of issue that you couldn't really think about how to be solved, something random or too convenient almost would occur, kind of killing the high-stakes effect that I think the directors were trying to pull off. But otherwise, it met my expectations of what I thought the film was going to be, and it's a very fun, lighthearted film that I would for sure watch again. It's one of those classic movies of the 80s that I think everybody should watch just to have a good time. So followed by this, we have Banksy and the Rise of Outlaw Art. I am a huge art fan, especially graffiti. My favorite artists are people like Keith Haring, Invader, Obey, and especially Banksy. I really like Banksy and all of his work, and oh my gosh, when people say documentaries are boring, this will be my prime argument of why they can be so exciting next time. This documentary was amazing. It covered all about the rise of street art and graffiti and the cultural impact it had around the world, and about Banksy, one of the most influential artists of modern day. The only reason I couldn't give it a perfect 10 from me was because it got just a little bit slow at some points, but it's still incredible. Like, I still really enjoyed it, and I really don't think it discounts for that at all. There's so many interviews from other artists and other experts that are so interesting, and even some original letters from Banksy himself, which is so cool because Banksy is famous for people not knowing who he is. So having his own writings within this documentary is very interesting, even though it's voiced by a voice actor. It's very, very interesting, and if you only have to watch one documentary this year, I would recommend this one. So for a movie that has some great casting like George Clooney and Ryan Gosling, The Ides of March left me a little underwhelmed. I think the concept was an entertaining one if pulled off a little bit differently, and George Clooney's directing was extremely good. Clooney not only starred in this movie, but directed it as well, and you can really see his directing style all over this piece. He takes a lot of inspiration from Tarantino's style of keeping a shot in one frame for an extended amount of time to tell more of a story at a point of view type of shot, as opposed to a lot of cuts, and I think that's a really interesting stylistic choice. I always thought their color composition throughout the whole movie was beautiful and hard to miss. Like, there was so much symbolism within the color in the movie that you really just had to watch for and notice that really brought out the film and made it a lot better. And it's very transparent throughout the film. So overall, every technique of the filmmaking itself I thought was very meticulous and professional, but the story overall didn't move along very quickly. The pacing felt very slow, and it took a little bit for the movie to get going, I feel. It was fine. I didn't dislike it. I just thought that the execution of the storyline could have been reworked to create a more excitable story. The thing that saved this from being a flat 5 from me was the incredible directing itself. First off, I just want to say that I think this movie got too much hate while it was still in theaters. It almost got taken out of theaters immediately. I didn't see it in theaters. This was a first watch for me about a week and a half ago. And it wasn't a masterpiece by any means, but it was still enjoyable. It didn't blow me away, but I would watch it again in a couple months. Once again, Will Smith is one of my favorite actors, so it's hard for me to completely dislike anything he's a part of. One thing I really appreciated in this movie was Ang Lee's very soft and smooth directing style, and one thing that stuck out to me was the constant theme and the metaphor of mirrors throughout the movie. There's a line in the movie where Smith's character says, "I can't even look at myself in the mirror," and so much of the movie revolves around mirrors, which I thought was a very interesting stylistic choice. And it was very cool. Like, there's action sequences that take place in the mirror. Constantly mirrors are in the background as Will Smith goes through the settings that they're in. And I thought the concept was very interesting and pretty original, honestly. There's not a whole lot of movies with a plot like this one. I thought the ending was pretty cheesy and it felt kind of forced. It didn't feel very natural, and I kind of thought that they just had to squeeze the whole conclusion in about 8 to 10 minutes of dialogue. I also thought that there weren't any super memorable characters besides the people that Will Smith played. And I can't even remember the main girl's name, but I just watched this movie like a week and a half ago, so I feel like that should be saying something. I really wanted to give this movie a 7, but I just really couldn't for those reasons, and so it's a 6.7, but it's still good. So yeah, this was my September watch list. This is all the movies I watched in September. Thank you guys for watching. You can like and subscribe, obviously, and there'll be one for October. So peace.